Shalom. Is anybody there?
Shalom.
We got one person. I don't know who it is. We'll give people a few minutes to sign on. Kathy's off to the side. She's here, but she got a little headache, so she's going to sit off on the side today.
A big headache.
A big headache, she said. I don't think she means me. I'm not sure.
No, I don't mean you.
Okay. Well, hey, Diana's there. Shalom, Diana. Chag Sameach. This is oh, and Angie's there. Shalom. And 3 people over there, and Keith's here now. All right. Oh, we were up to 3. We're down to 1 on. That was fast on YouTube. Well, all right. I guess we can go ahead and start. The first thing that I want to look at today is the commandments for today, the 7th day assembly, right? And Pesach, or 7th day of unleavened bread. Because some people aren't familiar with it. And it helps to know the commandments first, right? So you know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go ahead and look at Vayikra. That's Leviticus. Vayikra. Really, it doesn't mean Leviticus. It means, and he called, right? The Hebrew names don't match up to the English names as far as meaning. Vayikra 23, verses 5 through 8 is what we're going to start with. Oh, that was Debbie saying she's there, and Lou's saying she's there. There's a comment section in YouTube where you can click and it'll let you comment. I think you have to hover along the bottom with your mouse, and you'll see it'll say comments or something. So if you wanted to try that, then you could communicate with each other too, just like the people on Facebook are doing. Hey, Nancy, Kathleen, all right. Lena, Julius, excellent. So again, we're going to Vayikra, that's Leviticus chapter 23, and we're going to look at verses 5 through 8. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, between sundown and complete darkness, comes Pesach for Adonai. On the 15th day of the same month is the festival of matzah. For 7 days you are to eat matzah. 7 days. On the first day, you're to have a holy convocation. Don't do any kind of ordinary work. So these are things we've already done, right? What's a holy convocation?
A meeting.
A convocation is like a meeting or assembly. You come together for the purpose of worship, because it's a holy convocation. You're coming together for worship. You're coming together with a purpose, right? Mm-hmm. And that was on the first day, and there's no work on that first day. And it was an annual Sabbath, and we've been eating matzah all week long. How's that going for everybody? Eating matzah all week long.
It's not bad if you put peanut butter on it.
Okay. Yeah, there are different things you can put on there, right? Mm-hmm. What's that Nutella that you like, I guess, is one thing. I like the horseradish, but how much horseradish can you eat in 1 week? It starts to hurt. Okay, anyway, verse 8, bring an offering made by fire to Adonai for 7 days. So there's an offering involved, an extra offering each day that should be involved. On the 7th day is a holy convocation. That would be what we're going into here. The 7th day is a holy convocation. Again, holy convocation. It's an assembly. A lot of people don't pay attention for some reason to the 7th day, but it's an annual Shabbat as well. Do not do any kind of ordinary work, it says. So we're supposed to have an assembly. That's what we're doing now, the people who've joined us, and take the day off tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You know, a God that gives you days off.
Me too.
That's pretty cool. All right. And that is verse 8. Now we're going to go, because that's not the end, to Devarim. Devarim, that's Deuteronomy, chapter 16. You could also look in Bamidbar, Numbers 28-29, but we're not this time. Devarim 16, started with verse 8. Starting with verse 8. Okay, because we don't need to read all about the first days. And for 6 days you're to eat matzah. On the seventh day there is to be a festive assembly for Adonai your God. Do not do any kind of work. So here we don't see being interpreted as holy, but we do see it interpreted as for Adonai your God, right? It's not for us that we're doing this, it's for him. And this would imply a connection to him in some way. That would be worship. But what kind of worship? Should we be solemn today and reserved and somber? It says a festive assembly. So today's supposed to be a happier time, right? All right. And then we're going to go to verse 9. You are to count 7 weeks. Now, you might remember in Vayikra, we talked about the other day how it said in the Hebrew, we're supposed to count 7 Sabbaths. In this text, it does say weeks, right? And if you count on the same day, if you're starting, right, one Sabbath at the Sabbath, I mean, just 1 Sabbath, 2 Sabbaths, you're going to have the same amount in weeks. So it's not a difficulty with the scripture, but in one place it says we're supposed to count weeks. Another place count Sabbaths. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
And you are to begin counting 7 weeks from the time you put your sickle to the standing grain. You are to observe. Now, do you put your sickle to the standing grain on a Sabbath?
No.
No, after the Sabbath. And you are to observe the festival of Shavuot, right? Which means weeks, for Adonai your God, with a voluntary offering, which you are to give in accordance with the degree to which Adonai your God has prospered you. That's verse 10. That's as far as we'll go in that chapter. I just want to get these. We're doing this thing called counting the Omer, right? And we're not really literally counting the Omer. The Omer is a measure of of wheat, and farmer. Then you could be counting the Omer, right? We're counting the days, though. In this text, we're counting weeks, and so we're doing that. We're following scripture counting weeks up to Shavuot. We're counting 7 weeks or 50 days until the day after that 7th Shabbat. And what do we do on that 7th Shabbat? What happens there? Well, what happens there, right, for the Torah is that there is a voluntary offering. And that voluntary offering is you're to give it in accordance with the degree to which Adonai your God has prospered you. What does that sound like? Hey, Zach, what does that sound like? The degree to which he's prospered you.
If he's prospered you a little, you give a little. If he's prospered you a lot, you give a lot.
Yeah, well,
in between.
it's kind of like it's similar to
Tithing.
You think of tithing. That's what you do. You're tithing your wheat. So you're going to give this offering voluntarily. You're not going to do it out of compulsion, but you're going to do it voluntarily because you should be doing it, and giving your tithes of the wheat in accordance with how he's prospered you.
So if you only have 1 acre of wheat, that's going to be less than if you have 10 acres of wheat.
Right. You're not going to get everything. Right. Okay. But it will be in accordance to how he's prospered you. In a year when there's a drought, it might be less, right? All right. Now, I wanted to talk also about history of this day, history and tradition. So, when we left Egypt on the Seder marks the time in Exodus where it was the night we were going to leave, and you had the blood of the lamb on the doorpost and the mantle, right? And people were rescued from bondage by having that, right? And it's pretty much a miracle that the angel of death passes over the houses that have this blood of the lamb marking the doorposts, right?
Mhm.
But the Egyptians, it didn't go so good for the people who didn't put blood on the doorposts. I say the Egyptians, but if the Egyptians put blood on their doorposts, any of them, they're like, what are the Hebrews doing over there? I think we better do that too.
Yeah, because they'd already been through 9 other bad plagues.
Right. When we left Egypt, there was a mixed multitude who went up from Egypt with us. And that would have included,
Egyptians.
undoubtedly, some Egyptians as well. Okay. So that's a day of victory, though, a victory over bondage. But what happened at the sea, when we came to the sea, was also a great victory. When you see the movies, the Exodus movie, the Prince of Egypt, and all this stuff, it doesn't end with walking out of the city, right? It never ends with walking out of the city.
No.
Part of the story, hey, Tiffany's there. Shalom, Tiffany. So the story doesn't end with that. It usually ends just a little bit after the parting of the sea and the destruction of Pharaoh's army, right, and his chariots. When does that happen, though? First of all, which miracle was bigger? You know what I mean? Which miracle was bigger? When you think of the Exodus, there's...
What, 6 million or something?
What do you think about? What do you think about when you think about the Exodus? What's the greatest miracle of the Exodus? Is it rescuing the children of Israel with the blood on the lamb? Or is it the destruction of Pharaoh's army as he's trying to run us down?
The whole thing. Because the Israelites, the Jewish people, were also shown favor by the Egyptians. I mean, they were giving them clothing and jewelry and all kinds of stuff. It's like,
right,
get out already.
They were scared.
Get out already. Leave. Yeah.
And interestingly, in recent years, I remember reading something. It came from an Egyptian paper that they were looking for recompense from the people of Israel. They wanted to get that, be paid back for the stuff that we took on the way out. Okay. Never mind the 400 years of slavery.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Without pay. Never mind that.
Then if that's going to happen, then the Israelites should be recompensed for all the years that they were doing all that labor, all the stuff that they built.
Much greater restitution.
Yeah.
So there's two sides to this. There's the miracle of breaking Pharaoh's hardened heart on one side, and then there's another miracle of crushing him when he comes against us to slaughter us later on, because he didn't let go. If you want to read about the crossing of the sea, it's Shemot, Exodus chapters 14 and 15. We will turn there real quick. Shemot 14 and 15. That's Exodus 14 and 15. And in 14, he's like, what did we do? We let them stop being our slaves? What are we, crazy? And he started to chase after them.
What? I think he is in his ears too.
Yeah, some
because
counselors.
Now the work that had to be done was going to have to be done by the Egyptians, and it wasn't before. It was all done by the slaves. And if they wanted all those buildings and pyramids and statues done, somebody was going to have to do it.
And nobody looked forward to that.
No, because they saw the hard work that went into it.
Right. And when the Egyptians draw close to us, and I'm looking in verse 13, Moshe answers the people, and they're like, why didn't you just leave us alone? We're not going to die in the desert. Moshe's answer to them, stop being so fearful. Remain steady, and you will see how Adonai is going to save you. Sometimes we face things in life, and we lose our trust. We start looking at people to deliver us from situations when we should be looking to God to deliver us from situations. Adonai will do battle for you. just calm yourselves down, verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Moshe himself, he turns to Adonai. Yeah, Lena agrees the whole thing. Emmy said when we're brought out of Egypt. But Moshe turns to God. He's like, okay, what do I do? And Adonai says to Moshe, what are you crying to me for? I always thought that was kind of amusing.
Mm-hmm.
He said, what are you crying out to me for? Put your hand over the sea and divide it in two. I'd be like, but I can't do that. Only you can do that. You know what I mean? But Moshe is smarter than me. And so he got the point. He knew if he did that, God would be with him and God would part the sea. But the way it reads is a little bit peculiar. And they advanced into the sea on dry ground. The ground was dry.
Yeah.
All right. I remember seeing someone brought up to me a theory of how they crossed on ice or something not too long ago. And yeah.
That's interesting, being in a desert and crossing on ice.
Well, God could do anything, but that's
Right.
not what the text says. It's pretty clear it's dry ground. Okay. And we see how the angel of Adonai was going ahead of the camp of Israel. And at that point, when Parao started to chase after us into the sea, this angel in this cloud moved away and went behind us in the column of cloud, became a barrier to our enemies, an impenetrable barrier, right? And then Moshe reaches out his hand again, and Adonai caused the sea to go back and crush them. And this is usually the climax of the movies, right? The Exodus movies. This is usually the climax.
Some of them go into he's coming back down the mountain with the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
Some of them.
But sort of like I forget the word, the denouement or something like that, where it evens out at the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you're just showing a little glimpse of what happens later, that the story's not completely over, that now it's like the good times, which it wasn't really the good times. It was 40 years of wandering after that. But we had the Torah, right? So that was good.
It was like the calm after the storm.
And I want you to notice something too, something else we've been reading. If you've been reading along in the Psalms, when did we leave the city? When did we leave? You remember what time of day was it?
It was nighttime, wasn't it?
It was during the night. It was around midnight. This angel of death came through. And we heard the wailing. And Parao sent for Moshe and Aaron and said, "Get out of here."
And isn't that one of the reasons? Because weren't they told to eat the Passover Seder with their sandals on their feet and their staff in their hand? Because God knew
that's when we left. It was, and when did we have the Seder? We have it at twilight,
at
right?
sundown.
As we're going into, into the nighttime. And so when this happened around midnight, then he instructs us to go, and we don't wait. We go. We go. Now we're looking at this account, and it's been a few days, by the way, and just before dawn is when Adonai looked out on the Egyptian army through the column of fire and cloud and threw them into a panic, started breaking the wheels off their chariots, right? And the Egyptians say, so they could hear Moshe, to write this later, he could hear them. Adonai is fighting for Israel. Let's get out of here, right? And so again, this deliverance again happened at night, is before dawn, just before dawn. Deliverance from dark times, from darkness into light.
What's also interesting is, I mean, in the movies, they show them going through fairly quickly. This says they went through all night long.
Them and the Egyptians as well.
Yeah.
On the same night.
And I mean, part of it is because there were so many, but I think part of it is maybe where they crossed. It maybe was a wider area of the sea.
Mhm.
Just think
Well, it
out
takes a long
loud.
time for that many people
Yeah,
to cross.
yeah.
We don't know how, you know what, we don't know how wide the sea
Right.
was
How many
divided.
people side by side
Yeah.
went through at the same time?
Right. Okay, but then we go to chapter 15 quickly, and I won't go too deep here in 15, but Moshe and the people of Israel sang this song to Adonai. And I know some of you were with us a few years ago, and I played, and we heard from like Murray Tillis Light of Messiah Ministries a long time ago, and I'd never heard that whole version before. It was like, it's like a country music kind of. It has to do with verse 1 here. I don't know if I can remember the tune. I will sing to the Lord. Here's and the horse and the rider threw into the sea.
Yeah.
Yeehaw! Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of funny. So there's one song, part of the Song of Moses. So Moses liked country music. Is that what the message was there? I'm not sure. Okay, and then we go to verse 2, and we have, this is also familiar to some of you. We've played this several times before. Behold, God is my salvation by Liberated Wailing Wall and others. They didn't write it. Someone else wrote it. Yah is my strength and my song. And this time it's not the whole name. It's not Adonai. It's the shortened form. This way it says Yah is my strength and my song. And he has become my Yeshua. He has become my salvation. And that's going to be important later. Okay. And then we come down to verse 11, part of this song. So there's at least two songs we've taken from the Song of Moses. Here's a third one in verse 11. Who is like you? This should sound very familiar to all of you. Who is like you, Adonai, among the mighty? Who is like you, sublime in holiness, awesome in praises, working wonders? What is that?
Michamocha.
It's a Michamocha. Yeah. This is what I tell you. This is one of the most ancient, most beautiful blessings, and one of the most important times in history when we do the Michamocha.
I always think of James Satterthwaite when we hear that.
As a friend from an old congregation we were at, and when we came to that part, I was very excited to do the Michamocha. And whenever
when they would say the word awesome, he would just like yell it out at
he
the
would
top
belt
of his
out
lungs.
afterwards from the back.
Awesome!
In this booming, deep voice.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe remembering his own deliverance.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And you come to verse 20 and you see Miriam the prophet, the sister of Aharon, took a tambourine in her hand. A tambourine, mind you. And all the women went out after her. How many of the women? All of the women went out after her with tambourines. They had a lot of tambourines. Dancing. Uh-oh. They were all dancing. All the women were dancing. How many of the women were dancing? All the women were dancing with tambourines and singing. And what did they sing? It sounds very familiar. Sing unto Adonai, for he is highly exalted. The horse and the rider threw into the sea. Yeehaw! So apparently they were doing the chorus. Maybe they were doing the chorus, you know?
Maybe.
Anyway, so there's beautiful, we have several songs that come out of the Song of Moses. What?
I said, are they just like that part?
Maybe they just like that part, she said. Could be, right? There were several songs that come out of there, several beautiful, meaningful songs that come out of the Song of Moses. Let me see here. When did this crossing take place, though? Can anyone tell me? Does anyone know when this crossing took place? I'm seeing your comments.
Like
I'm looking.
The time of day or the time of...
No. What day was it? Do you have any idea what day it was? What does tradition say? We'll put it that way. It was 7 days after Passover. 7 days after Passover. What time is it? Okay,
7
you see,
days after Passover.
This is an important day. This is an important day. You know, something else about this day, when this great miracle was happening, this great miracle of deliverance was being completed on this day. Something was going on today. According to tradition again, okay, so if you hate tradition, plug your ears for a minute, but tradition says the Malachim, Brother Malachim, What are malachim?
Angels.
Right, you could say angels in English, right? Malachim were rejoicing when they saw the Egyptian army being destroyed. And the father saw them, and he was upset. Why are you rejoicing? He said, why are you rejoicing? These creations of mine, made in my image, are being destroyed.
Makes you think.
Yeshua talked about loving our enemies. And what does that entail? I mean, if you were in an army, what does it mean to love your enemies? It put your gun down and let them shoot you and kill your family then or something? What does it mean to love your enemies? I mean, if you've conquered your enemies, how do you treat prisoners?
Right.
If you're still at war, how do you? What is in your mind for them? Is it pure hatred, or would you prefer to make peace?
I prefer peace.
If you know that they're following a false god, do you hate them for it, or do you pray for their deliverance too? We're called to pray for our enemies. So today we pray for Gaza. We pray for Gaza, especially because we're called to do this. Especially we pray for Arab believers as well. They're not our enemies, but we are called to pray for other believers who are in trouble. And the Arab believers in Gaza are very violently oppressed. The numbers dwindling very quickly. And many of them are killed and depressed. And we need to recognize that Islam is not a race, it's a religion.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many Arabs who are believers. The percentage keeps going down, but that's not because of Arabs waking up to the reality that they've been wrong or something and deciding to follow, that guy who came along in the 7th century AD. No, it's because they're being killed. It's because they're being killed. They're being martyred for the faith, sometimes in the most horrendous ways. So as much as we love Israel, we've got to remember too that the people, the Arabs, are also made in God's image,
and they're living in the land too. And
they're very precious. They were, all the children of Abraham he loved, and he sought a blessing for Ishmael as well. And there was one given to Ishmael. Now, it wasn't the same. It's not the calling, but there is a calling. So we pray for Gaza as well as Tel Aviv.
And we have a very dear friend that's a Muslim, but he's a Christian.
What?
I said we have a very dear friend that's Arab, but he's a Christian.
What's that? Oh, yeah. I thought he's Indian. He grew up Muslim, though.
Yeah.
But he was an Indian.
Oh, okay.
But we do have a friend who is from the West Bank. His family, the whole family. Remember Mary and Laura? Anyway, we're getting on.
Yeah.
That's not distracting me here. Yeshua said to pray for our enemies. We need to intercede for the people of Gaza. I've always believed this, and especially the believers in Gaza. Oh, good. Jerry's joined us. Shalom. Chag Sameach. Now, there was a guy you might not know about, many of you, called Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov. He was a rabbi in Eastern Europe, and part of his, the main thing we remember about Baal Shem Tov, he brought back like a sense of how feeling is important in our faith, that we should be feeling our faith. It should be something deep. It's not just going through motions. Our love for God should be real, something we feel, and our love for our neighbor should be something that we sense not just that we do as a duty. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
He was very into feelings. Feelings were the most important thing for him. I would depart from him there. We're not led by our feelings. Feelings can be great, but sometimes feelings can lead you astray. But anyway, it is important that he brought back the sense that feelings are important. But another thing he did was he incorporated, in some Orthodox communities, you had two seders at the beginning, because you don't know if the timing is correct with the first one. What was the phase of the moon really? Or this got all kinds of different ideas. Did we really start on the right day? Well, just in case, we'll do it again the second night, right? And so you have two seders. We don't do that, but many do. And then not so many in the Messianic community, none that I've been a part of. None of the congregations I've been a part of have done it, but there are people who do. But Baal Shem Tov, he created a third seder. And his third seder, Rabbi Yisrael ben Eliezer, a.k.a. Baal Shem Tov. Okay, that was Denise. Zimra. All right, good. And but one of the things he did, he created a third seder. And you know what he called that third seder? I bet some people out there know, so I'm going to give them a chance here for a second. What was that third seder called? Don't start Googling, just type it if you know already. Do you know?
Redemption?
The third seder. And when was the third seder, too? You can take guesses at that if you'd like. Might be self-evident.
The third night?
I have to give a little time. The feast of Moshiach. The feast of Mashiach. The meal of Messiah. So that Mashiach, the meal or feast or festival of Messiah. Yeah, that was Denise. Where's Zach? Did he sign up or something? Anyway, so there's an interesting connection there. Baal Shem Tov connected the Seder to the Messiah. Now we know the early Seders are connected to Eliyahu, Elijah, and he connected this third Seder to Mashiach, who follows Eliyahu. There's a connection, the Seder and the Messiah. I think that's interesting. And Chabad refers to this as this time as the dawning, if you don't know this, the dawning of the Messianic age. As the Passover season would be the time when the Messiah comes, and it would be the dawning of the Messianic age. Who knows? No one knows the day or time, right? Let me see here.
Not even the Son, only the Father.
On the seventh day, yeah? It was the seventh day. I didn't say that part. Zimra got that right also. Okay. And so now I want to make a connection. There's because our story, our Seder didn't just talk about leaving Egypt, right? We asked what people's favorite movies were and whatnot too, and those were the most common were there's only one person brought up the new Exodus movie, and it wasn't that accurate. It wasn't his favorite. He just at least brought it up. But the Ten Commandments, the Prince of Egypt, but at least one or two people also mentioned, and this wasn't the one they didn't like, the Passion. It's also a Passover movie. There's a connection, just like Baal Shem Tov said. Just like Chabad believes, not exactly like they believe, but just like they believe, there's a connection to Mashiach. We know that the first Seder was right before his atoning death, the death of the Lamb that brought a great victory. And his return, which Chabad would say Mashiach will come on Passover, bringing the dawn of the Messianic age. And we know when he returns, he's going to crush his enemies, the enemies of Israel who are surrounding Jerusalem, and rescue save his people, who will see him coming in the clouds, pierced in his hands, and they'll know who he is, and they'll do teshuvah. They'll come to him, accept him as Mashiach. This is talked about in Zechariah, and it's 12, and it's also talked about in Romans. God will turn away the ungodliness of Jacob, and all Israel will be saved. There's a connection on both sides. His atoning death, the death of the Lamb that brought victory, and his return will also bring a victory. A bookend, a parallel of bookends. And which one of those will be greater? When he saves us initially, when he conquers sin and death, or when he returns to the earth for the ultimate, the end of this deliverance, and conquers, for good and for all, sin and death, throwing death into the lake of fire. There's no more death, no more tears, no more crying, right? This is when he returns. Again, that's a tough call, right? The whole thing is all about deliverance. They also call it Mashiach Seudah. Yeah, Seudat Mashiach. Yeah, that's the term I use. So we have this very close parallel. If you want to know more, this is totally not what I'm talking about, but to carry on the parallel, if you are interested, the book of Revelations, right, and all that is talked about there is very similar in nature to what happens in Shemot, in the Exodus story. Think about it; it will come to you if it hasn't already. And Dan Juster's written a book, The Passover Key, to help us to understand. And this may be why Chabad and whatnot also say this is when Mashiach will come, because not because of Revelation, but I think there's a connection. I think they're onto something here. Something awakens in the Jewish spirit around the time of Pesach, and maybe more open to hearing from God. And so, but Dan Jester talks about the Passover Key, this serious parallel, this very deep parallel story of Exodus, Shemot, and the story in Revelation. So this could all be coming together. Anyway, something else happens in Revelation. We have the initial sacrifice of the lamb and putting the blood on the doorpost, and that's the very first Seder. Then we have Yeshua with his last Seder, right? And at that last Seder, he says, I'm not going to drink from the fruit of the vine again until, and I'm not going to drink, some of the accounts say, from this cup. And what's this cup? Do you remember what this cup is?
Is it the cup of redemption?
The cup of redemption. I'm not going to drink of this cup again until. And this would imply he's going to drink from the cup of redemption again when he returns. There's language, of course, in the Brit Chadashah, a terminology called the marriage supper of the Lamb. When a Jewish man makes a contractual obligation with a woman to get married, you do the cup and you create the covenant. We talked about this at the Seder. He pours wine and offers it to her to drink to enter that covenant of marriage. He's saying, I would die for you. Will you have me? Yeshua said this, and he did die for us. And this is why we drink the cup, to remember that he's making this covenant with his blood. And one day he will return and will have another very special Passover Seder with the Mashiach at the head of the table. The cup of redemption. Lena got it, and Julia's got it as well. I have to pay more attention to the comments, I guess. All right. So there's the marriage supper of the Lamb, and also notice in Revelation. Okay, and you also notice in Revelation that when he returns, we'll be singing something called, there'll be a sea of glass, and we'll be singing something. We'll be singing, what will we be singing? I'll give people a chance there.
The Song of Moses.
The Song of Moses.
And the Song of the Lamb.
And the Song of the Lamb. Those are not songs that oppose each other. They're not songs that oppose each other. At the very least, they're two songs that are complementary. But I want to suggest maybe that it's the same song. The Song of the Lamb, the Song of Moses and the Song of the Lamb. It's like one song, maybe. You know what I mean? Just like this book should not have a divider in the middle of it.
Mm-mm.
It's one book.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I want to close by reading Revelation 15, and then we'll do a couple blessings. Verses 2 through 4. Revelation 15. That would be the last book in your Bible if you're not familiar. Revelation 15, verses 2 through 4. We have some very scholarly people in our congregation, you know what I mean? But we shouldn't assume that everyone knows,
Mm-hmm.
Even basic things, because you don't know what people don't know anymore. Revelation 15, verse 2. I saw, put yourself there, that's so beautiful. This would inspire you. I saw what looked like a sea of glass, mixed with fire. Those defeating the beast, its image, and the number of its name were standing by the sea of glass, holding harps which God had given them. They were singing the song of Moses, the servant of God, and the song of the Lamb. The song's a little bit different, because we know what the words to the song. And Paul Wilbur has a beautiful, you could look up, you could Google Song of the Lamb, and you'll find a great version by Paul Wilbur, right? That will inspire you as well. But the words are great and wonderful are the things you have done, Adonai, God of heaven's armies. And what did he just finish doing when we sing this song? Conquering earth's armies who've come ways, King of the nations. He has just come to judge the earth with true justice. You look at the UN, how they treat Israel. It is not just. He's coming to judge the nations with true justice. Adonai, who will not fear and glorify your name, because you alone are holy. All nations will come and worship before you, for your righteous deeds have been revealed. No more atheists on that day. On that day, everyone will know that the stories that we read throughout the year, and that some mock and try to attack, all of them will also know that these stories are true. If you have a Siddur at home, you can join Kathy and I. We're going to go to page 51 and 52. And even if you don't, if you know Mikamocha, you can join us and celebrate and worship and remember the deliverance at the Sea of Suf, is what it's called in Hebrew, against the Egyptian army. And also remember your deliverance from the evil one who kept you in bondage, right? From the evil one who kept you in bondage. And even after you've broken away from that bondage, maybe some of you are still struggling. You've broken away from that bondage recently, and maybe you feel a little tug, like he's coming after you, right? So we want to pray for those people that God will break the enemy and cut him off, so you will truly be free and remain free, right? And for the rest of us, and you can pray it in faith, even if it hasn't happened. If you're in some kind of battle like that, pray this in faith. Sing this in faith. If you don't know the words, just, capture the essence of it. Listen, and in agreement, pray in your heart. Amen? With mi kamocha. And mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot osefele. Who is like unto thee among the gods, O Lord? Who is like unto thee, awesome in holiness, doing wonders? Who is like unto thee? I just see myself at the sea when I'm singing it this time, you know what I mean? I can envision with the enemy at the bottom and freedom. And let's close with the blessing. Thank you for joining us, by the way, if I forget to say that in a minute. Mm-hmm. That we do have a charity of the week, because this is a season when we want to be gathering, offerings together for Adonai, and not just for Kahilat Elohim. We're going to bless our communities. It's one of the things we're called to do. And so we want to give this for charities. This week, I don't care, you do what you do. But to me, at least you could give a penny a week. I mean, that's not so tough. And maybe if you make a decision to give a penny a week to charity, maybe you'll find a few extra pennies along the way. Who knows? Maybe God will put that on your heart. Tents of Mercy is the charity we're picking this week, and I made a post about them on our Facebook page. They help the homeless people, the Jewish people who come back to Israel and are trying to immigrate and become part of society. And right now, they probably need a lot of extra money, because there aren't more people coming, but there also aren't any jobs. What they do is try to get people jobs. And right now, that's got to be awfully hard for them.
Yeah, because everything is shut down right now.
Yeah, they try to care for them, the homeless people, give them somewhere to stay and feed them. And that's got to be a real task right now over there. Yeah. So they need our help. If God puts it on your heart, then remember, you can give through us. Just mark anything you send to us that you want to go to them. Make sure you do the mark for part in the memo section. Put Tents of Mercy. Make sure every penny that we get that says that will go directly to them. Mm-hmm. All right. And I hope you're staying along with our count as well, with the prayer for Israel, then Jerusalem and Gaza. And now we're in a new day, so it will be Tel Aviv, which some say it needs a lot of prayer. Tel Aviv has become the gay capital of the world, unless it's changed. So they need a lot of prayer over there, a lot of prayer. Mm-hmm. All right. You may want to raise your hands for the blessing. Don't know if we'll be doing the holding hands for the blessing anymore for a long time, but we can raise our hands to receive the blessing. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Adonai bless you. Even during these times, Adonai bless you. Adonai keep you. Even in these scary times, Adonai protect you and guard you and keep you safe. Adonai make his face to shine upon you, to give you his favor. When other people are afraid, and other people are struggling, may you find that he helps you to prosper. And may he be gracious to you. Give mercy. Even when you don't deserve it, that you'll find his mercy is there waiting for you, chasing after you even, not letting you go when you stumble. Adonai lift up his countenance upon you, not turn away from you, and give you his perfect holistic peace. His perfect holistic, his peace, his wholeness. May you be whole this season. May you be made whole if you're not this season. May we experience healing for the people in this congregation, healing for the people who are watching, healing for our society, healing for the sick in our community, in our communities, wherever you're watching, and healing Israel who have this thing as well.
Healing for everyone around the world that's going through coronavirus.
Ultimately, healing for everyone from this thing. Just, Father, destroy this thing, this enemy that's come on the world. Destroy it. Destroy it with the sea. Your spirit. The spirit is like water, it's like empty. It could be not just a sprinkling rain or something, but a torrent, a tidal wave to come and wash our world clean. The Ruach HaKodesh, come and heal our planet. Come and heal your people, the people made in the image of God. We don't want to see anyone perish.
Mm-mm.
So we ask for your intervention on this Passover season. B'Shem Yeshua. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so remember, it's not over yet. You still have one more daytime with the matzah, at least. And some of you might do an 8th day. Tradition, there's 7 days in the Bible, but some tradition, some people go by different traditions and do 8 days. That's up to you. But at least do tomorrow. All right, and it's an annual Shabbat tomorrow as well. So if you're following the Torah, then you don't want to be doing your ordinary work. God bless you all, and shalom.
Yeah, for those that are